I'm going to go ahead and record this, and we're going to go ahead and start the session. Um, so Scott has a note in there about anybody who's new to the class. You can send him an email. He'll put you on the list, and he will, keep you updated. You can always go to the website and find out what the classes are coming up. You can review old classes on the website and lots of things. So I guess I'm just kind of curious. We have a few people in the room tonight. Curious if there's anybody new, first time or second time. If you could just share with us how you found out about the classes, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Just kind of curious as to how you were motivated to come to these classes. And maybe everybody is old. So I'm going to go to the gallery view.
Yeah, I don't recognize too many new names, I don't think.
What if you want to share, all you need to do is push the unmute on your microphone and it will you don't even have to show your face.
Yeah, I was here last week, but I didn't have video. But I have something to say.
Yeah.
So I had mentioned that I had been doing a daily workout for an entire year now. But then I got to thinking about what you said, and it occurred to me I didn't lose a single pound that entire year of working out.
Yeah. So we address that issue as these classes go along about the benefits of exercise. It is definitely helpful, but what's going to really, if you're thinking about losing some extra weight, it's going to be the food choices you make that are going to have the biggest impact in your life. So we'll show you the science connected with it. You'll make the decision whether you make some different food choices. But thanks for showing up and nice to see your face. Welcome to you. Anybody else who is new to the classes? Okay, I guess we have a established group, which tends to, we had numbers around 24 to 30 maybe. We're at 35, which is pretty good actually for people continuing on. Some of you have heard my story before. I'm going to go ahead and share again. I guess you could take a short nap for those of you who have heard it more than once. But
I've heard it maybe 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
I will listen.
So, I can't actually see who you are when I'm doing this presentation. So no worries about it. If you have to do something else in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody just for a bit. And then once everybody gets muted, I'll try to stop intermittently and see if you want to chime in. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to start out with a PowerPoint. I'm not the biggest fan of PowerPoints generally because they oftentimes can put me to sleep. My goal is not to put you to sleep, but to wake you up. As Dr. Clapper talks about, he had an awakening while he was putting people to sleep. We try not to put people to sleep with our program here. So let me see if I can say this. Show slide. Why isn't it doing its thing here? I don't really understand that. So I'm going to start this again. Stop it. can you all see my screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, I think I finally got to where I'm ready to go. So, and okay, so I have no financial interest from any issue discussed in this session. I don't make any money off of doing these talks. I don't plan to ever make any money off of the talks. My goal is and remuneration or payback for doing these classes are the testimonials that I receive from people just like yourselves. And so I want to share that with you briefly. I hope you can see this. I can't see it myself, but I'm showing you cards and letters, notes that I've received in the mail. I hope you can see it. If you can't, it's okay. I'm just telling you. And then I have a whole stack of emails that people have sent me. And, you know, I've been doing this now for 9 years or so, and they've piled up to the point where I've stopped saving them. I just kind of communicate back and forth. But when I get one of those emails or I get a card, it is a inspiration to me, and it's a joy, and it makes me want to do another class. So I don't need to make any actual dollars. I get plenty of joy from coming to you and trying to share the science with you, trying to encourage you along the path that has really helped me and my wife so much and has helped so many others that have sent these notes. So why would you want to come to a class like this? I mean, you know, there are plenty of other things to do in your life besides Zoom in and listen to Charlie and Scott as they kind of talk about what's going on. So most of you have some sort of goal in mind, and if you haven't written that down, I'd encourage you to do it. It's important to focus on it. You should make it a SMART goal, and we'll talk about that as time goes on. Something that is achievable, specific, and you know, that you can really benefit from. So the next question I have for you is, why do you eat what you eat? You know, how much research have you actually done to determine what are the healthiest choices? So most of us, we grow up in a family, we live in a culture, and those food choices are kind of pushed on us from other family members, friends, family, relatives, whatever, and our culture. And we just assume we're eating healthy because that's what everybody else is doing. But if you actually look at the science, you may be surprised. I know I was 10 years ago when my life changed. Does what you eat really make a difference in your health? And I think we just heard that exercising for a full year may not lead to weight loss. It may lead to improved health, but if you're looking to lose some weight, I believe if you really listen to the science, you'll find that it makes a difference what foods you actually choose. Now, in the old days, we used to believe that your genes determined your health. You know, if your grandfather or mother or father had heart disease or diabetes, had a stroke or cancer, that you were prone to developing those. And that probably is somewhat true. We used to think it was the weight of, you know, the most likely issue to happen, like maybe 80% was your genes and maybe 20% your lifestyle. That's been kind of reversed. I know when I graduated from school many years ago, I thought the genes really made the biggest impact on my health. I've since learned that genes account for maybe 20 to 30% of why you're either healthy or why you're sick. So as Dr. Clapper talks about it, your genes load the gun, but it's your lifestyle choices which pull the trigger. So if you don't want anyone hurt, you eat actually healthy lifestyle choices, and you make some other healthy lifestyle choices. What's the deal with this whole food plant-based stuff? I mean, what's wrong with eating some animal products? We've been doing it for years. And so a lot of you who are new to the class may be wondering that. Is that really so bad for you? And why do we have so much of it if it's so bad? And then the last question is sort of like, aren't citrus foods like lemons, limes, oranges, with that acid, aren't they bad for your teeth? Are they going to rot your teeth out? So we'll address that at some point as time goes on. Let's go to the next. I'm going to share my story with you, and I'm going to try to embellish it as best as I can, so it may take a few minutes for those of you who've heard it before. But the first statement that I want to make is I did not want to do this. Believe me, this is not something that I read a book and I said, this is something I want to do for my own health. I felt I was kind of, I guess, forced into it in a way. And the story goes like this. I've been a doctor for about 34 years, and I thought I knew what was healthy eating. I was following the Zone diet, and boy, that book, it sounded good. You know, it sounded like it was a reasonable thing. You eat 40% protein, 30% fat, or let's see, it was 40% carbs, 30% protein, 30% fat. And I thought, well, that makes a lot of sense to me. And so I followed that for a number of years. My weight never changed. My health didn't change. I thought I was pretty healthy. I was 40 pounds heavier at that time, and my cholesterol level was in about the 240 range. I had an LDL in 135 to 140, something like that. So I thought I was at some risk of having a maybe cardiac event. My grandfather had died of a heart attack at 65. My dad had not had a heart attack at that point, but I know that heart disease was the #1 killer. And I thought, maybe I should be taking a statin. So I took one statin. It gave me diarrhea, and so I tried another statin. It gave me diarrhea so bad I occasionally had to change my clothes at work, working in the emergency department. I tried a third statin, same thing with the diarrhea. I decided this is not going to go well with my lifestyle. I got my cholesterol down to about 210 with the statins I was taking. So then I tried niacin, and I took my first dose of niacin, and man, my head and hair was burning. It felt like, and it was so bad, and I couldn't stand it. And I said, I'd rather die than early than have to take this medication because of the side effects. So I had resigned myself to the fact that I was just going to live a little less longer time on this earth. I wasn't going to take any medicines, and that was the end of the story. Well, my life continued on, and my wife and I were sitting in the living room together about 10 years ago, and Sanjay Gupta came on with a program called The Last Heart Attack. And in this program, he reviewed a study at the Cleveland Clinic by Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. And his book is How to Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. The study went something like this. He took end-stage heart patients, patients who kept having a heart attack or another stent or another bypass. 5 of them were told, you know, you're probably not going to live the year out. You better get your affairs in order. because there's nothing more we can do for you. You're going to keep having this problem, and all the pills and medicines that we have to offer are just not doing it. And we're sorry, but that's how it is. Well, Dr. Esselstyn took these people. He actually had a group, I think it was 25, 26 people who he started with. And 8 of them said, when they heard what they needed to do, they said, there's no way we're doing this. What he told them that they needed to do for this study is they needed to be on a whole food plant-based diet, which meant that they were to eat nothing that had a mother and nothing that had a face, no added oils and no processed foods, and no nuts and seeds, except for some flaxseed. So of the group remaining, I think it was 18 remaining, at the end of 20 years, they were, or 12 years initially, they were all alive. The interesting thing is there was one guy who, after 6 years, said, I feel so good, I'm gonna go back and eat how I used to, the standard American diet. And he wound up with another bypass. The rest of the group had no further heart attacks, no further bypasses, no further stents, and they lived past 20 years, I believe, at this point. And another interesting point was they had done angiograms on all these people, and about 35–6% of them actually showed unclogging of their coronary arteries after 1 to 3 years. Now, there was a previous study that had shown unclogging of coronary arteries. It was a study by Dr. Dean Ornish in California. Well, Dean Ornish, he took people and put them on a plant-based diet. He exercised them 3 times a week. He put them in meditation and yoga. He put them in group therapy to love more and hate less. He took over their life, but he showed that he got about an 86% of the people to actually show visible reversal of the clogging in the coronary arteries. So reversing heart disease. So there's been only 2 studies in the world literature that demonstrate unclogging or reversal of heart disease. Those 2 studies are whole food, plant-based studies, no other way of eating, no paleo, keto, Mediterranean, Weight Watchers, zone, any other way of eating has ever been demonstrated to reverse our #1 killer. So for that reason alone, it makes this something that's pretty attractive. Well, it wasn't attractive to me because my wife looked over at me after the program was over, and she said to me, do you think we should do this? And my first reaction was, there is no way. I am not going to give up what I love eating, my ice cream every single night. I had to eat ice cream before I went to bed. I was sort of like my psychological addiction. I loved French fries. I'd eat the occasional burger. I even liked hot dogs, you know. I liked eggs and cheese, and these were what I felt were healthy foods. And I also thought they were good foods. And here's this, my wife is asking me to change to eat what, just plants? I don't know that. How could you get enough protein, and how could you get enough energy? In fact, I used to laugh at one of my physician colleagues in the emergency department. He was vegetarian. He'd eat a salad for lunch, and I would just say to myself, there is just no way I could live that way. Well, there was a little voice on one of my shoulders that whispered to me. It said, you may not want to do this, but your wife's dad died at 41, 42 years of age with his first heart attack. He didn't have a second chance. you know, your wife's mom, she's had her cardiac bypass already in her early 60s. And your wife's brother in his late 50s has already had his bypass. And your wife is 62. She's next in line. And she's in an age group where, you know, you might want to ask yourself, do you want a new wife? And I did. I asked myself that, and I was struggling with not wanting a new wife, but having to do something different with my life. And so I came to a compromise in my brain. That compromise was this: I would do this for 1 month with her. At the end,
Let's get back on track. And I have nothing but at home time for the foreseeable future. So might as well start recommitting to those healthy habits, starting.
okay, so we're back. Thanks for muting. This, I decided I could do this for a month. And at the end of a month, if she was feeling better and doing well, she could keep doing it. And I'd go back and eat how I wanted to eat. You know, I would support her as best as I could, but there was no way I had any intention of continuing on the whole food plant-based route. I didn't even really know what whole food plant-based meant at the time. It was just doing something different. So we watched Forks Over Knives together. We read through Dr. Esselstyn's book, How to Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. And we together went through our kitchen. We pulled out every meat, dairy and egg product, every processed food. And then we went and we gave it to our kids. They thought it was Christmas. We had a freezer full of meat. We were stocked up for half a year or year for a nuclear explosion. It seemed like we had so much extra food, and the kids loved it. We didn't know we were giving them food that wasn't healthy for them. Had no clue at that time. And my wife went online and she bought about 10 different kinds of beans and different lentils and things I'd never heard about. And then we went to the store and we bought every green known to mankind, collard greens and kale and chard and arugula. And, you know, again, I didn't know what arugula was. I didn't know what collard greens were. I'd never really eaten chard, and kale to me was bitter. But we bought it and stocked up our refrigerator and stocked it up with whole grains. And we started following the program by Dr. Esselstyn. Well, for that first month, I want to tell you what happened. I was never hungry for one day. You know, I was working in the emergency department and I used to be a real snacker. I could have just eaten a big meal and I'd walk into the break room in the emergency department and someone had brought in some cookies or donuts, cake, cookies, something. And so I'd whip out my tongue blade, literally, and I would take a little bite and I would snack on that throughout my shift intermittently. I always would be hungry, never full, and always eat every sweet known to mankind. Well, that month, when I was eating so much at home, I was never hungry. Nurses would come to me and say, don't you want a donut or this? I said, no, I'm doing this for my wife and I'm gonna, you know, spend a month. I'm gonna avoid those things and I really don't have the appetite. No extra exercise, but in 1 month, my weight came down 10 pounds. So I'm not hungry and I'm losing weight. I'm feeling good. And the thing that made me jump up and down like I'm doing now is I did a blood test after 30 days, drew my blood just as out of curiosity to see what happened to my cholesterol. And the reading was 148, from 240 to 148 in 30 days. never hungry, actually eating foods that I now liked. At first, it was a bit bland. It took a few weeks for my wife to add some spices and flavoring, but I was now used to it. And I decided that 1 month was not enough. I was going to just continue on doing this because, wow, I felt good. I hope the same thing happens to you. I've heard that story many, many times. You've listened to Scott's story already, and many of you have your own stories of why you continue to come to these classes, about the benefits that you've had from them, and how you care to share that with others. So I guess I want to stop there. And I just need to share with you, this is my wife. 2 years ago, we went to Italy. We're in Italy here in this picture. Maybe it was 2.5 years, almost 3 now, because of the pandemic. It's been 2 years. So it was just before the pandemic hit. We spent a week on a tour in Italy. It was great fun. And by the way, she's 72 right now, and she has no evidence of heart disease. And so am I thrilled about that? I am. For those of you who know my wife, you'll know why I am so thrilled. Now, Scott mentioned lifestyle medicine and went into it a little bit, and you'll hear more of it. But my summation of this is health or disease will come by what you eat, how you move, the chemicals you choose, and then how you deal with stress. They add in sleep and relationships, and I kind of bundle that under how you manage stress in your life, but that's my personal point of view. The modern world is split it up into smaller bites so you can maybe better understand it. Many of you are not aware of the American Medical Association's resolution for all hospitals. Let's take a look at it and see what the resolution is. Why is it? Okay, so in 2017, it's going to be almost 5 years. It's been 4.5 years. The American Medical Association hereby called on U.S. hospitals to improve the health of patients, staff, visitors by providing a variety of healthful food, including plant-based meals and meals that are low in fat, sodium, and added sugars, eliminating, get this word, eliminating processed meats. They're carcinogenic from the menus, and promoting healthful beverages. For those of you who have been in the hospital over the last year or had family members, if you found out what they were eating, you'd find out that the processed meats have not been eliminated from the vast majority of hospitals in our country. There may be only a couple that have chosen to do this, and hopefully there will be more in the future. Feeding people foods like processed meats that are class 1 carcinogens like smoking and asbestos doesn't seem like a healthy plan. And we even feed these processed meats to our kids, which is a real crime from my point of view, and it might become your point of view at some point in the future. But if it doesn't become your point of view, that's okay too. We're not policemen here. We don't give out tickets. You get to make your own decisions. You can listen to what we have to say. Scott and I are on board on a lot of things. We differ very slightly on some issues. Perhaps I eat a few more greens than he eats, but he exercises a bit more than I do. But, you know, bottom line, you'll find out that we are pretty much doing the whole food plant-based idea, and we're pretty accepting of what anybody does. We're just hoping that you follow a path that will provide you the health you want. And what I tell people is, if you're like have heart disease that has clogged up your arteries to the point where you have 1 foot in the grave and 1 foot on a banana peel. You're kind of slipping toward death. And, you know, someone's recommended you have a bypass or you go in for your angiogram because you're having continual pain. I'm going to tell you, you should do this 100%. You should not be deviating at all. I'm not going to get upset if you deviate. It's your choice, but I'm going to tell you, if you want your best hope and chance of avoiding getting your chest split open with a bypass, that you do this 100%. For those of you who are younger, don't have any significant medical problems, you may choose to do this 90% or 95% like they do in the blue zones. So this is not an all or nothing series of classes. It's providing science to you. And if you come to me and you say, I can't control my diabetes, I want to get off my pills, I'm going to say, then do more plant-based and less of the animal products until you get the benefits you want. Now, are there other organizations that are on board with this? You bet. The American Association of Clinical Endocrinologists now recommends a plant-based diet. The American Diabetes Association in 2018, the American Institute for Cancer Research, and then the dietary guidelines of Canada, Brazil, Germany, Qatar, Netherlands, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden all recommend a more plant-based diet, not only for human health, but for environmental sustainability. That's a whole other topic. So I talked to you about the 4 root causes of disease: what we eat, how we move, the chemicals we choose, and how we deal with stress. And let's look at the problem. Scott looked at it a little bit last week, and some of this is redundant, but you know, it doesn't hurt to hear things a couple times. Our life expectancy is 4 years less than the nearest industrialized country in the world, including Britain, France, Canada, all these other countries live longer, and we spend twice as much on our healthcare compared to these other countries. There's something wrong with that picture. 7 to 8 out of 10 people with chronic illness might not have to suffer from diseases like the following, should they choose to make different lifestyle choices. That would be heart disease, and included in that is erectile dysfunction. Now, why do I include erectile dysfunction with heart disease? If you think about it, the penile artery is much smaller than the coronary arteries. And so they would be the first ones to get clogged up and blocked up. We used to counsel people that erectile dysfunction was more psychological. I used to tell patients that all the time. And now I've learned that it's like the canary in the coal mine. If someone has erectile dysfunction, they had better be worked up for generalized atherosclerosis and clogging of their arteries, and they better start looking for heart disease and stroke and do something to reverse it. And the way you reverse it is not with Viagra and Levitra and Cialis, the sexually enhancing pills. The way you reverse it is through diet. And I've had 3 patients that I have received notes from over the last 9 years that their partner or themselves have written to me and thanked me for showing them the science about this, that they had return of their sexual function as their arteries unclogged. And it has been pretty inspiring at times. Diabetes, it can be reversed. I've seen many people get off of their pills and actually become non-diabetic with their food choices alone. Kidney disease, several people have gone from stage 3 kidney disease with filtration rates of 40 to 50 to up to a normal range of above 60 by just transitioning to a whole food plant-based diet, eliminating the animal protein, which is so hard on their kidneys. Obesity, So much weight has been lost without really trying by so many people who are able to really follow whole food, plant-based, unprocessed diet. Now, we're not just talking about vegan or no animal products, because when you're refining whole grains or when you're refining olives into olive oil and you're eating these refined, even plant foods, they can lead to obesity. So try to focus your attention on just eating whole plant foods, not the processed forms. Cancer can be stopped in its tracks or potentially prevented. And we have a lecture on that coming up. Same with autoimmune disorders, chronic pain, and GI issues, constipation, diverticulosis, diverticulitis, GERD or reflux has improved, rashes have improved. The story goes on and on. I sound like a snake oil salesman in the old days. I tend to preach a little bit. I'm sorry about that, but I feel pretty passionate about this. And like I said, though, keep in mind, I'm not a policeman and I don't expect you to do as I say, but I do as I say. Okay, so why is this a problem? Our food sources have been altered. And if you remember one slide, this is the one that I find to be the most exciting of the whole adventure tonight. Back in 1900, the average American, this is from the United States Department of Agriculture Food Review, Major Food Trends, a century review from 1900 to 2000. The average American was eating 5 pounds of sugar per year. Right in 2010, the average American was eating 77 to 100 pounds per year. Different studies showed different amounts, so I just kind of gave that range. Right now, it's probably even higher. And oils and fats, we used to eat 4 pounds a year. We're now up to 74 pounds per year. And cheese, a big one, 2 pounds per year, now up to 30. Cheese is one of those that is highly addictive food. It breaks down into casomorphine, a morphine-like substance that lights up your brain and causes you not to want to stop eating it, but to want to eat more of it. So when you look at these numbers and you compare what we used to eat to what we are eating now, it's no wonder that we have an overweight problem in our country, that we have diabetic problem, and all the other chronic illnesses that come from inflammation, from being overweight and eating the foods that are so highly processed. We used to grow 131 pounds of fruit and vegetables in our gardens per person. Now we're down to 11 pounds per year. And the calorie intake has gone up, the nutrient density, the vitamins, the minerals, the plant chemicals that fight infection and boost our immunity, they've decreased by about 40 to 60%. And then soft drinks. We used to drink none. We're up to 53 gallons per person per year. I don't drink any, so someone's drinking 106 gallons a year. TV time is a lot more, so we're exercising less. And then fiber. This is a big one because this is the deficiency in the American diet. We used to eat, and I'll pause a moment to let you think about how much fiber we used to eat. And this is how much fiber we now eat on the average. The average American is eating 14, 15 grams of fiber a day. What was a healthy amount back in 1900 was, believe it or not, 60, 80, and 100 grams of fiber a day. How do you get that much? Where does fiber come from? It comes from no animal product, no meat, no egg, no dairy product has any fiber. Fiber is like the animals have bones for their skeleton to keep the support. plants have fiber. So the only place you get fiber is from eating plant foods. And in order to get 60 to 80 grams of fiber a day, you follow Dr. Greger's daily dozen and you can do it. That's what I do. It's 3 servings of legumes, it's 3 servings of whole grains, it's 4 servings of fruit, and it's 5 servings of vegetables. Now, in a serving of legumes, you get about 7 grams of fiber. So if you get 3 servings, that's 21 grams right there of beans or lentils. A half a cup is a serving. And if you add on to that 4 servings of fruit, average fiber in a serving of fruit is about 3, so that's another 12. Average serving in a serving of veggie is about 4 grams of fiber, so that's another 20. So that's 30 and 20 is 50 something. And then serving of whole grains is about 4 grams. And so 3 more servings get you into the 60. So 60, 70 to 80, you can do pretty easily if you follow what Dr. Greger encourages you to do. When you start doing this, you're going to get friends, family, and relatives who are asking you, where do you get your protein? How can you be healthy doing this? You're going to get sick. And so they're the ones who are taking heart medicine, blood pressure pills, and diabetes, and they want to know where you get your protein. They don't understand that what they're eating is causing their illnesses. And so let's talk about the protein issue for a moment. If we take 500 calories of plant food and compare it to 500 calories of animal food. So here's the plant-based foods, here's the animal-based foods. Now this is 500 calories of each. What are they? You take equal parts of tomatoes, spinach, lima beans, peas, potatoes, and you get 500 calories. That kind of is like maybe the size of a volleyball. You know, it kind of fills you up and you have to spend some time at the dinner table to get it all down. Whereas if you do equal parts of beef, pork, chicken, and whole milk, you can get that 500 calories probably in the palm of your hand and gobble it down in 5 minutes. Get on to your work or get on to something else. Don't give any thought to what you're eating and you'll get 500 calories. Now let's compare the nutrients and the minerals, vitamins that you get. In the plant foods, you get 0 cholesterol. With the animals, you get about this amount of cholesterol. Fat is 4 for plants and 36 for animals. Protein, if this doesn't surprise you, I don't know what will. It's identical. How is it that there's so much protein in plant food? Well, the reality is all protein, the building blocks of all protein, the amino acids, are produced by plants. They take nitrogen from the air, split the molecule, form the amino acid. The animal comes along, chews on the grass, or eats the plant, and they form protein. So there are some animals who are just completely plant-based, who have plenty of muscle strength, plenty of protein, and those are gorillas and elephants and, you know, other creatures that you might be able to say, wow, maybe you do get enough protein if you eat enough plant-based foods. Eat a variety, eat enough calories of plants, and you're going to get enough protein. Look at the other benefits of plants. Beta carotene, vitamin C, folate, iron, magnesium, calcium far outweigh the animal products. And remember, we talked about fiber, the deficiency in the American diet. From 500 calories of plants, you get 30 grams of fiber with these foods compared to 0 in the animal foods. So I've been going on like a madman here for about a half an hour, and it's time to take a break. It's time to see if you have any questions. And if you do, that's fine. If you don't, I will carry on because I can speak into eternity, as most of you know. It's not hard to keep me on the treadmill. So speak up and let me know what your questions are. Yes, Marcia.
Yeah, I've got this friend that she eats meat and she gave me a bottle of probiotics. She goes, you need to have these because with you just eating plants, you don't get whatever it is that meat has that plants don't have. I took them, but I didn't argue with her or anything. What do you think of probiotics?
So probiotics, there's prebiotics are the food that probiotics eat. Probiotics are bacteria. When probiotics came about, when we were using a lot of antibiotics and knocking out people's intestinal bacteria, their normal microbiome, people would have maybe chronic diarrhea or they would have bowel issues. And so they kind of fed people these bacteria to try to replace the bacteria that were killed by antibiotic therapy. That has since been found not to be so effective for most situations. So it's my take that if you're whole food plant-based, you're getting enough different bacteria, if you're eating a variety of foods, that you're going to have a normal microbiome and that you're wasting your money on probiotics. You don't have to buy them. It's just another, in my mind, another gimmick to take a bit of money from your wallet or your purse and feed a company that put together a product that can be valuable for certain circumstances, but for the general population, not necessary at all.
Okay. I know I was reading about them, and according to that, they're saying what you're saying. You don't need them.
Correct.
Fiber and stuff like that.
In fact, there was a study in Israel that showed that for those who took prebiotics or probiotics after they had wiped out their intestinal flora with antibiotics, it took those people actually longer to repopulate their normal microbiome than the people who just ate a regular diet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What else? Who else has a question?
Vonda's got her hand up. Oh,
Rhonda and then Eric.
Oh, I had something to share when you were sharing about what the hospitals feed you.
Yes.
I was in the ER the beginning of December with my 89-year-old father for about 24 hours. His blood pressure was over 200, and they decided for him to spend the night. And so I filled out his menu and I requested dairy-free, and they lost his dinner. And so for breakfast, they brought him milk, scrambled eggs, sausage, a couple pieces of bacon. And I was just like, you're going to kill this man. What are you feeding him? This is crap. I just couldn't believe it. Even after I put dairy free, they still brought him dairy foods, and they feed you horrible in the hospital.
Yeah, so if you think about it, if you're a business and you're a hospital, is it to your advantage to keep people healthy, or is it to your advantage to have the population be sick when you're reimbursed
You keep them sick.
for sickness?
Oh, yeah.
We need to change the way hospitals are reimbursed. If we could keep
Definitely.
our population healthy, if a hospital could keep their population healthy and get reimbursed, that would change this overnight. But the will has not been there yet from the majority of our population. Okay, thank you, Vonda, for that. Eric.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say a couple things about the plants and bacteria in your gut. First of all, I saw recently a study that said that different plants have different bacteria, actually probiotics on the plant themselves. So bacteria live with the plants. And so you get a variety of healthy bacteria in your gut from eating a variety of different plants from your garden or from the store. The other thing
That's
is that-
correct, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is just the idea that that it's really the meat eaters that need to really worry about the microbiome, right? They're going to be, it's them who probably need to spend extra money and time trying to figure out how they can get their microbiome set. The plant eaters already have all this wonderful fiber that feeds these prebiotics to to the food, the bacteria that are down there. So those bacteria are very important, but it's not the ones that you take necessarily by mouth. It's so much all the fiber, the prebiotics that you mentioned. And I just wanted to reiterate what you said about that. That is so true. So
Thank
keep eating your plants. Yeah, don't take your probiotics. I mean, yeah, I think it's a good idea if you taking antibiotics or something like that. But otherwise, save your money.
Very
Eat your
good.
plants.
Thanks for reinforcing that. It's important to hear the feedback from the class. Anybody else? Yes,
Mary.
is it Mary?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment off of Vonda's. The opposite of that, I was in the hospital last January, quite sick with COVID, and I couldn't fill out a menu because they weren't taking anything out of my room, but they gave me a phone to the kitchen. So I could call the kitchen. I had 2 women assigned to me, and I could call the kitchen and order what I wanted. And when I told them I was eating whole plant-based foods, they were really excited to make sure I got good food through the whole process, and even had some good suggestions for me, like, how about this or how about that with that. So I found it pretty refreshing. I know it's not the norm, Vonda, but I thought it was pretty cool that they would do that.
Well,
I had a good
that's excellent. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I
great.
had
That's
a-
the first I've ever heard of that.
Yeah, I had a good experience too. I was in the at Riverbend Hospital for 3 days back in May when I broke my leg, and the dietitian came and talked to me, and I told him I was whole food plant based, and I was able to, it wasn't the tastiest food, but I was able to get plant based meals for the 3 days I was there. So it was all right.
so what we'd like to see is that the hospitals offer that as a healthy option and not something that you have to beg for. And so that may take a few more years. May not be using beg, but I can be a little melodramatic sometimes just for the fun of it. Any other thoughts from anybody? Okay. Let's see, our Dr. Gregor's Daily Dozen, the minimum.
Oh, sorry, Dr. Ross. I
Yeah,
don't
go
think you
ahead,
can see me.
Nancy.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about that last thing you had up on the screen that
Yeah.
compared. I can't find that on the resources on the website. Excuse me. And it was something I particularly wanted to share with a friend who I've been talking about this with. So
You mean you want that slide information from the website?
right,
Yeah,
is that,
It's not
yeah,
on our it's not on the class website, but you
It
can,
would be on the class
we could do it.
itself.
yeah.
I don't know
It's
if I can
recorded.
get it. I don't think I can get him to look at that, but
In the
I'll
archive.
see.
So you want me to send you the slide?
That'd be terrific. Thank you.
Oh, I need to get your email and stuff. Send me an email and I will.
Will do.
It's Katanya Ross at msn.com. Do you know my email? CAT like a cat. ANIA ROSS at msn.com. Katanya was
Okay.
our first dog.
Oh,
Okay, so
thank you.
yeah, I'll be happy to send that to you. Scott put it in the chat room also. Let's see, there was someone else who had their hand raised and I lost it. So who else was there? I'll go back to the gallery and see if there's anybody else who's wanting to speak up here. Okay. Any other thoughts, suggestions?
I have something really fast.
Okay.
Dr. Bolshevich addresses the microbiome, the prebiotics, the probiotics in his fiber field book.
Yep.
And he doesn't recommend them except in very certain circumstances with his patients.
Young
All the information
kids.
is in his book.
Young kids in the neonatal unit I think they are beneficial for, and maybe there's one other group I can't recall, maybe someone with C. difficile or something. Let's see, any other hands up? I don't see any other hands. Thanks for sharing that. So I'm gonna go back to the PowerPoint for a few minutes, and then we'll probably have time for a few more questions. Hopefully. Let's see. So we're going. So I used to be the standard American doctor, eating the standard American diet. So I was sad as a standard American diet. Why was I sad? It wasn't because I didn't care about my patients. It was I didn't have the education. I didn't have the experience of actually understanding what healthy eating was. I knew what healthy exercise was. I knew how to deal with stress somewhat, and I knew how to avoid chemicals, but I didn't know what actual eating healthy meant and how food was actually like medicine. And the standard American diet is the bad thing about it. It's just the side effects associated with it. If you're, when you go to a doctor and they say, I want to give you a pill, you talk to them about the side effects. No one has really talked to you about the side effects of eating the standard American diet. No one tells you that the standard American diet is the cause of diabetes. You seem to think this is in the genes, or it's because you didn't exercise enough. And, it's just sad. That's all I can say about it. Now, a few years ago, I was in the food court at Valley River Center in Eugene, and I saw this sign. It was around Halloween time, and I thought it was a Halloween gimmick. It said toxic, wings, burgers, fries, now open in the food court. And I just out of curiosity, I thought, is there really a food place called this? And do they serve that food? And sure enough, I don't know how many of you have been to Toxic. The people I've asked in the past classes, it's been their adolescent or teenage children who have brought them to this place that has hot, spicy food. But my dad used to say, the truth is often said in jest. And in my mind, wings, burgers, and fries are toxic. Maybe it's in jest, maybe it's not, but you to decide. Does it really matter what you eat? And what does the science show? We've talked about genes a bit. And so why trust me? Don't trust me is what I'm going to tell you when it comes to your genetic makeup. Many of you still believe that the genes make the majority of the difference as to whether you're going to have a heart attack or stroke or have cancer. Well, there was a study done by Colin Campbell, documented in the China study, which showed the various incidents of disease in various parts of the world, particularly rural China. And out of this study, he's determined that if you take the same people with their same genes and you transport them into the United States, they develop disease rates at the same level as their the American counterpart. So in other words, it's not the genes. They didn't develop diabetes, heart trouble, diabetes when they're living in rural China and eating a diet mainly of plants, but they did develop those illnesses when they came to the United States and started partaking of the diet with the processed food. Unfortunately, that same diet is now being transported throughout the world in an increasing amount. And so these diseases are increasing throughout the world in places where they didn't have these diseases before. These are diseases of affluence. And preventing your body from rusting. I think of it this way. When you eat a diet that's inflammatory, it produces a lot of free radicals. These cause your body to kind of rust or age. And it's sort of like leaving metal out in the elements. It sort of rusts. Well, you're encouraged to eat antioxidants, which are fruits and vegetables mainly, and to counteract those free radicals. Well, if you didn't eat the foods that produce the free radicals, you wouldn't have to eat so much antioxidants. But the bottom line is, if you're eating a whole food plant-based diet, you're getting antioxidants and very few free radicals in comparison to eating a meat sweet diet. That's the standard American diet. There's the story of TMAO, which we will get into at some point in the future. That's trimethylamine N-oxide. It is a chemical that is produced by your microbiome, the bacteria in your intestine, if you're eating a meat sweet diet. The bacteria love those foods, and they produce this chemical which pushes cholesterol into your arteries and causing plaque buildup. Leading to atherosclerosis and heart attacks and strokes. If you eat a plant-based diet, the bacteria that you promote in your intestine do not produce this TMAO. So for those of you who don't want to be encouraging heart disease and strokes, you might, and even cancer, this chemical is elevated in cancer patients. If you don't want to promote those illnesses, then you may want to be eating things that do not promote this chemical increasing in your body. There's another chemical, IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1. It promotes the growth of cancer. It is found in animal products. It's something that if you knew about from a young age and your parents had known about it, they probably wouldn't be feeding you those foods. We are just learning about those. There's another chemical called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is formed when you combine dark green leafies with your saliva, the bacteria in your saliva. It forms this nitric oxide, which causes your arterial walls to stay smooth, to be relaxed, lowers your blood pressure, keeps plaque formation from building up. So the more dark green leafies you eat in your life, the healthier you'll be. And Dr. Esselstyn recommends eating these 6 times a day for those who have heart disease and want to reverse it. I haven't gotten to 6 times a day. Sometimes I may eat 3 times a day. But if I had heart disease, I might consider doing it 6 times a day. Someone who has high blood pressure, nitric oxide will lower your blood pressure. And how you get that? It's from eating dark green leafies and avoiding the fats and oils in your diet. The fats and oils cause an inflammatory reaction, cause your arteries to kind of spasm down a bit and cause a rise in your blood pressure. So those refined olive oil and the coconut oil and the vegetable oils and the oils that maybe you're told are healthy for you, even like olive oil, they're not so healthy. So you may want to stick with the classes to see some more of the science connected with that, or do some more reading on your own. There are some advanced glycation end products, AGEs. There's heavy metals, free radicals, petrochemicals, phthalates, bisphenol A. These are all chemicals found in fast foods and processed foods. None of these are very healthy for you. Healthier foods lead to improved mood, better academic performance, and improved athletic performance. If you haven't seen Game Changers on Netflix, I'd encourage you to look at that and see how you get improved athletic performance by eating a whole food plant-based diet. This is a study that changed my life. I saw this picture on the last heart attack Sanjay Gupta shared with me when he changed my life. Dr. Esselstyn, this is one of his patients who had this clogged artery. You see how it's narrowed with cholesterol and plaque in there? This is the artery, I don't know, 1 to 3 years after being placed on a whole food plant-based diet. No stent, no bypass, no rotor-rooter, just food that allowed the body to heal. If you're not interested by now, I don't know when you might be interested, but this is dramatic stuff. And it was really dramatic to me to see this artery opened up with just food. Now there's regions in the world called the blue zones. There are 5 areas, Scott talked about them, where people lived into their 90s or hundreds. This blue zone studies were done maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. The people in Okinawa at that time were some of the longest lived. They have since gone to a more processed diet, and now the country is trying to get the Okinawans to eat like their ancestors ate so that they will become healthier instead of sicker like they're becoming. But the blue zones have this in common. They are plant-based diet, no smoking, good family support, constant moderate physical activity, social engagement, and they eat legumes. These are the beans and lentils that we've talked about, split peas, chickpeas, legumes. Dr. Greger recommends 3 servings a day. A serving is a half a cup. If you can't do it initially because you think you're getting too much gas or bloating or whatever the reasons, you don't like them, try starting with a teaspoon and keep increasing every few days to a week and gradually build up to where you incorporate them in your diet. You'll live longer by eating more legumes. Now, I don't like to fight, but I sure wouldn't mind having a body like either of these guys, and all they eat is plants. Carl Lewis was a plant eater, vegan. The Williams sisters were vegan. Football players, the Tennessee Titans, I think, their team went whole food plant-based and wound up with a national championship within a couple years. It makes a difference what you eat with your performance as an athlete. And if you're wondering if you get enough protein, these guys look a little emaciated, like they came from the concentration camp. But that's not why their body has only got maybe 3% fat, body fat. These guys are the ultra marathoners. They don't just run a marathon at 26 miles. They run 50 miles, 100 miles. This man holds the record for running in 24 hours. It's 167 miles in one 24-hour period. And all he eats is plants. He gets enough protein. And this man has done, I think it was 5, what is it called?
5 Ironmans on the 5 Hawaiian Islands in 5 days.
Yeah, so an Ironman contest is, I can't even recall what it is, but it's a marathon. What is it?
It's a 2.5 mile swim, 112 mile bicycle ride, and then a full marathon.
And he did that one day, and then he did it another day and another day. 5 marathons on 5 Hawaiian Islands in, it was a week or 5 days.
Yeah, 5 islands, 5 Ironmans in 5 days.
Wow. I mean, it's totally incredible. And these people are really unbelievable athletes, and all they eat is plants. You get enough protein, you can be very healthy. And so I'm going to kind of sum up here in the last few minutes. There are some meat-specific toxins that Dr. Clapper talks about. He talks about you get from meat, oxidized cholesterol, which is atherogenic. It leads to plaque formation in the arteries. You get reactive aldehydes, which are mutagenic. They damage your genes. You get new 5-GC. It's a pro-inflammatory acid, highly inflammatory, only found in meat, and inflammation leads to chronic disease. Endotoxins that are heat stable. You can't destroy them with cooking. They are from the cell wall of dead bacteria. They increase permeability of the intestinal wall and can lead to toxic shock in humans. It doesn't happen frequently, but it does occasionally happen. We talked about TMAO leading to plaque buildup and inflammation, increased cancer. Heterocyclic amines. Anytime you cook meat, very few of you probably eat just raw meat, you produce carcinogenic compounds that are not healthy. Heme iron, it increases the risk of stroke and some GI cancers. Heme iron means the iron you get from blood. It's better to get your iron from plants. It's not heme iron, it's plant iron. And then bioconcentrated pesticides, herbicides, heavy metals, hormones, antibiotics. These are all found in meats. So when you think meat is so healthy and you just really want it because it tastes so good, think about some of the side effects connected with it. That's what I'd encourage you to do, but you don't have to do that. You could think about, well, maybe I want to go with the flow. And right now, the keto diet is really in vogue. There's so many people doing it. It must be a good thing. Well, the keto diet is very low in carbohydrate. But you may get some short-term benefits of a little weight loss, but it's the long-term side effects that are the problem. At the end of a year, you get decreased blood flow through the heart, and there's a decreased life expectancy. You have an increase in colon cancer, heart attacks, strokes, autoimmune disorders, diabetes, inflammatory bowel disease, dementia. Is it worth the short-term weight loss to do the keto because you like to eat bacon and it sounds good? In my mind, no. I'd prefer to take the long road to health. Now, plant-based nutrition changes everything. This again is from Clapper. It decreases the thickness of your blood. It increases the oxygen delivery to the tissues. It decreases arachidonic acid and inflammatory prostaglandins, which lead to increased pain. I've had several patients who have been able to get off of pain pills when they went totally plant-based. It increases the omega-3s, which are healthy fats that you need. Decreases inflammation, decreases oxidative stress. It increases Prevotella, which are the bacteria that don't produce TMAO. It decreases the bacteria that do produce TMAO. Mood often improves because serotonin, mood-altering substance, is made in your microbiome. And if you don't have enough fiber, you don't produce enough serotonin. It can lead to anxiety and depression. Skin oils change. And so there's less acne, and hormone levels are improved with plant-based diet. Improved renal function. Respiratory secretions are less viscous. You get improvement in asthma, and some COPD doesn't progress as rapidly. And then decreased white cells, but no increase in infection. There's a number of videos which we can share with you. I don't know, they excite me to watch these videos. You watched the How Not to Die, an animated summary last week. There are other videos about how Finland chose to subsidize dairy instead of berries, and the country over a 30-year period of time had a decrease of cardiovascular events by almost 78%. It's really a good video to watch, and it's on Dr. Greger's site or on YouTube. It's dietary guidelines from dairies to berries. For the world, it makes a difference also. Eating animals leads to using up water resources, polluting our air, leading to global warming. And so there's really a reason to, not just for your human health, but for individual health. And I guess I want to end by saying, you can change your lifestyle. You can do this in various ways. You can come to classes, learn what you want, and keep working at it. You can do a 21-day kickstart. That's at the Physician Committee for Responsible Medicine. If you like to do that, they give you recipes and encouragement every single day of your life. You can follow Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen. It's a free app on Apple and Android. This seems to be my favorite recommendation, but this other one, Physician Committee for Responsible Medicine, is good. You can watch a video every day on Greger's nutritionfacts.org. And then for stress in your life, I recommend the Mayo Clinic Guide to Stress-Free Living by Amit Sood. It's helped me, and it's helped a number of my patients and class members, and it could really help you. And we'll go into that in another lecture. So that, I guess, is the best overview I can do for now. And I'm done. And you're glad that I'm no longer talking. It's time to hear if there are other questions. I love the bird on your hand, Edward. I had a pet parakeet one time, and QB, and used to sit on my dog, and they'd play with the cat together, the dog, the cat, and the bird. Why they didn't eat each other up, I don't know. Okay, any thoughts from anybody else tonight before we carry on? I know I've carried on a lot.
I appreciate your carrying on. It was excellent. Thank you.
Okay, Debbie. You know, Scott and I are going to keep doing this. We're going to go, you know, we've kind of scratched the surface. We've tried to get you excited about this. It's exciting to us. And each week, we're going to kind of keep coming back to try to keep you excited and encouraged and find the path that's helped us and our families so much.
Hopefully everyone, I've updated the website with the class schedule, got it mapped out so you can kind of at least see what different topics we're going to cover, and I have it running through September at this point. So it's just on the home page of the website. I can show you real quick. Those of you that may be new, I'll just go to the class website here. So get this closed here. Here's the website homepage. And those are your new, that there's a tutorial here, 11 minutes, where I navigate the website for you. Here was last week's class, and then here's the schedule down at the bottom. So if you just kind of scroll down, and it gets to a certain point where you have to load more events. So I have it, so all these different topics. So next week being the meal preparation and planning. So there's tonight, there's meal preparation and planning, and we're going to do an open forum to just discuss these introduction classes and the meal preparation and planning. So it's a good time for everyone to be able to just kind of have some open dialogue and to ask questions. That's what the open forum format is designed for going forward. And then we have a couple classes on weight management, one on behavior change and food addiction, then another open forum to discuss that, nutritional myths and other popular diets, diet wars, and another open forum, a couple of classes on diabetes, and so on and on and on. So you can see the different topics if you look at the class schedule there. And they aren't set in stone as far as, I mean, the topics pretty much are, but we'll have to see if for some reason, if we have, sometimes we have guest speakers and things, and if the classes have to be shuffled around, don't hold me to it, but pretty much it should be that way. as set.
I'd like to recommend if people try an Instant Pot if they haven't. I had one for about 3 months, and I finally decided to be adventurous and hit the buttons. And the first time I hit too many buttons, so follow the directions, and go online and see what people say to use for the directions. But hey man, I made the best soup in that. I've done my what you call it, groats, those groats.
Yep.
Yep, those are really good. They're very sweet, but they have a sweetness that is not really in rice, and it's delicious with the fruits or with vegetables mixed with it. It's just like rice when you cook it in the Instant Pot. It doesn't take forever. And anyway, I recommend an Instant Pot. Otherwise, you know how long it can take making these soybeans, especially.
Well,
Long
thank
time.
you. Thank you for sharing that, Jeff. I
Yeah.
want to break in for a moment, and I want to kind of introduce again our medical student. There may be more, but I think there's only one who is very persistent. She's so persistent that she's helped us and helped you, a number of you, guiding you on the course. It's Lisa Chick, and she may want to say a word about what she's doing at this moment.
At this very moment, I am studying gastroenterology for our midterm on Monday, but I am a second-year osteopathic medical student at Western. I think most of you have already heard me say that many times. You could probably introduce me yourself. But I had the opportunity to work with a lot of you. So if anyone is interested in more information, one-on-one sessions with me, I do that for free, and it's really easy. You can just schedule it whenever is convenient for you, and we can meet and talk about your motivation, what might be holding you back, whether it's finances, time, stress, whatever it is. And it's a really good learning experience for me. So I've appreciated all the time that I've gotten to spend with all of you. And we have a Facebook group if you want support from the social media side, and it's been growing. So any advice, like the Instant Pot, it's a great one. Any articles you've read, it's just a good place to share that and get to know each other. So here, along with Scott and Dr. Ross, at your disposal. So I'll also put my email in the chat.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yes, thank you so much. And I have the link to the Facebook group in every week's email. And for those of you who have kids, for families and children, we also have a Facebook group for pediatric version, essentially, and also Dr. Eric Holgrove, who's a pediatrician here at Oregon Medical Group here in Eugene. And I'm gonna start putting that in the link to that Facebook group. There's a bunch of you that already signed up for it, but I'll put it in the weekly email starting this coming Sunday. So you'll have access to that Facebook group too, especially if you have children, you might want to join that one as well.
All right, thanks, guys. That's great.
Thank you. Nice to have you all here, and we will see you next week, and hope you have a wonderful week.
Thank you.
You're
See
very
you in the
welcome.
movies.
All right.
Thank you.
Virgil.
Good
Good night, guys.
Good night.
night, everybody.
Good night.
Happy New Year.
Same to you.